to a man's Madrid. It cost Man United. We would have beaten Madrid that day. We were better than them at the Bernabeu. We were better than them at Old Trafford. We were leading, and from that point on, they went to win. So I've seen it. I've never seen someone get a foot in the chest. I've seen people not get sent off when they should, i.e. the World Cup final in 2010. But I've never seen it not given as a foul ever in football. Ever, not once. That's why, for me, I think defending it, you're entitled to your opinion, bro, and I respect it. But I've never seen that happen and a foul not be given ever in my life watching football. And I started watching in the 80s, bro, where you could almost punch people. And they still used to give fouls for those things. So I think Liverpool should feel hard done by on that decision. On City, a lot of their fans told us before the game that you wouldn't see us run through and counter-attack in the same way Man United and Copenhagen and Tottenham and others did when we play the better teams. I'm not trying to make an agenda like they're in trouble because they're one of the best teams in the world still. But their midfield certainly looks like it lacks control. They leak counter-attacks like a broken fridge leaks water. Why are they struggling in that area? I'd love to throw that out to the panel to get your opinions on that, because they don't look as formidable and as strong this year, even though they're a wonderful footballing side. What's the cause of that, Rory?
I think it's mainly, and I think it's stubbornness from Pep almost, but like Rodri just looks so isolated in midfield. And I get he is, arguably the best CDM in the world, but I think he's probably tired. Like, he looks a bit tired at the moment, and he's just being left completely alone. And I think the fact that Pep took De Bruyne off when he did and brought on Kovacic, and he said that the reason he did that was to get some control in the midfield. I think he's aware that it's a problem, but I don't think he knows how to fix it. I don't know if they've got the players to fix it. Like, I think they miss Gundogan, and I think they have lost control. And like you said, it's easy to run through them at the moment. And it doesn't help that, for me, like, Kyle Walker's sense of positioning is genuinely like so bad. And so even sometimes his pace can't help him out there. And I think this is going to be an issue for them for the rest of the season. Like, I'm looking at going to the Etihad, and unless they fix that midfield, which realistically means dropping either Bernardo Silva or potentially De Bruyne, I don't know. I think there is a big weakness there that we've not seen in the last couple of seasons.
Have we not learned our lesson yet? No? It's March 11th. Yeah. Actually, it's my ex's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Have we not learned a lesson about Man City yet? Like, when they come back from a break, like last year, like we're going on like they lost the game, they drew the game, and they don't ever win at Anfield, because when it was last, I have to play. Look, there's no City fan here, and obviously I'll try to play a little bit for them, just a little bit, because I hate Liverpool. So when they went Etihad, Liverpool, and they got a point, we was all quick to clap for them. We was all to say, yeah, you got a point, you took them off the points of them, and then as soon as it goes the other way around, which they never win in, by the way, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, it's all doom and gloom. Come on, man. What are we doing here? One sec, Jules, because I need to go check on my food. What I'm trying to say is, like, yes, against the top six, I understand they have not been the greatest, right? That's it. Like, when it comes to it, but neither have Liverpool. So, but Arsenal have been the best when it comes to facing top six. I won't start saying that they're not really looking the same or anything at this moment of time until that Arsenal game. After that, I'll start making a bit more of a judgment, but I think it's a bit too premature, because I've learned my lesson over the years about this team and Pep Guardiola, when he needs to get a tune out of some of these players. One thing I don't understand, though, which I thought was completely baffling, why he didn't play Diaz, but here we are.
I think the context you're missing, Cass, is when you look at the first Liverpool game and you look at this Liverpool game, was Liverpool missed a lot of players for this game. They was at home, yes, and when you look at Pep's record at Anfield, it's horrible. It's literally, I think, one win in 8 or 1 win in 9. Like, he never wins there. But when you look at the context, that they were missing Alisson, they're missing Matip, Konate, they were missing who was in midfield? Gravenberch, Curtis Jones. Like, they're missing a bunch of players. Jota, Salah, come on, for the last half hour, looked horrible. They're missing a lot of players. So you have to give them the credit that they went there and they done better than what a lot of people expected them to do, because people thought City were going to play them off the park with the full team they had. You have to give them praise for that. I do also see it, the fact that I agree with what Rory was saying. I think Kevin De Bruyne coming back is giving Pep a conundrum now, because this season, he's looked at the start of the season and seen how Rodri and Bernardo play. They play very good together, and they always have. But he's always put someone else next to him, like a Kovacic or Nunes. He's always put someone who's a bit more defensively stout next to him. This is probably one of the first games that he's went and bought. I'm going to put KDB and Bernardo next to Rodri, which I think most of the people looking outside would say that doesn't really make sense. You're putting two very attacking players next to Rodri, who's going to now be isolated, and which we saw. Of course, Liverpool's midfield isn't as good as it was last season, but I feel like the way they play and the cohesion, especially with Endo, great performance yesterday, by the way. He was probably one of the standouts of the game. He was just overrun in midfield, pressed constantly, and they left him isolated. I feel like when Pep starts to throw the likes of Rico Lewis back in there or Kovacic back in there, they're not going to have as many of these problems, and we'll probably see that change come against Arsenal. So unfortunately for you, Roy, he will learn from it. This is what Pep does. He learns from his mistakes, and very quickly he'll make the changes that need to be done. But they were poor yesterday. I think City got absolutely played off the park in the second half. They didn't really have much going forward. And as well as another performer, I think a lot needs to be said about Haaland, man. I generally just think that Haaland's he's becoming a player who's just a passenger in the City team. I know we all thought that once they get a striker, they're going to go to the next level, but he's only playing, like, if we're being honest, he only has really good games against the smaller teams when he's getting a lot of the ball, being able to play with a bit more freedom. But in the big games, especially against the big players, the likes against like Saliba, when he's playing against Van Dijk, he gets marked out of the game. He adds absolutely nothing, no contribution yesterday, and words need to be had about him, honestly.
I'm a Haaland thing. We'll park that for a minute. I don't get where you're coming from, Kaz, when you say this. Maybe a little bit too early to write them off, and I think writing them off, you're right, it is maybe a little premature. But I think we can still when we talk about their issues, we are sort of almost nitpicking, and we're nitpicking because the difference making between one of these three teams winning the league is minute. I don't see one of them winning it by more than 3 or 4 points this year. So I'm looking at City, and the one thing I haven't seen with this much regularity is teams have opportunities. Man United only had 2 shots, but we had 10 counters. If Scott McTominay and Garnacho's through balls were better, we would have created 4 or 5 more goal scoring opportunities. Rashford missed a shot from 6 yards out. Rashford's header that went down, and we're awful. And I just look at it and think people keep saying that the next 3 or 4 games for Arsenal City are hard, but then after that, they're a shoo-in. This is a team that were 2-0 up against Palace at home and drew. This is a team that were clear of Spurs at home and threw it away in the dying moments. This is a team that's drawn with Chelsea. No disrespect, Jeremy. They're an 11th place team this year, and they've dropped points against them. They were 1-0 up yesterday against a very good Liverpool team who were depleted. 6 or 7 first-team starters out of their team, and they couldn't capitalize upon them. I don't think it's disrespectful to say that there is definitely the door's ajar. It's just whether or not Liverpool or Arsenal can smash it open in that regard, and that element is still on them. But I do believe if Arsenal win this weekend, the next round of games in 2 weeks, if Arsenal beat them at the Etihad, City won't win the league from that point, in my opinion, because Arsenal and Liverpool are too good. And they'll be 4 or 5 points behind by then, which is really 6 points because the goal difference will be where it is. And with 9 games remaining, I don't see them having a 5 to 6 to 7 point swing with 2 teams. That for me will just be too much, too little, too late. So it's going to be an amazing game now against Arsenal because they have to open up an attack. They have to be aggressive because it is must win for City. And I love that dynamic in terms of watching it with no real dog in. Well, I've got a dog in the fight. I am now on loan at Arsenal for the rest of the season. I've got to be any little bit of support I can put out there to stop this 4-peat. I've got to do it because this 4-peat will haunt me for the rest of my life. Egal and Rory being shameless on Twitter, thinking about Rory singing songs in the shower. I can handle that. I can handle all of that. I can't handle a 4-peat. Do you know why? Because in 100 years, in 200 years, that will still be remembered 110%. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it now. But your point on, I want to press the gem on Haaland. Do you think he's maybe I'm wording this in the wrong way? Is he a little bit of a flat track bully?
What we doing here? It's hard. Look what he did last season, man. Come on. Let's just not ignore that. I think one of the big things that I'd say why Haaland isn't playing as well this season for me specifically is that I think offensively, I don't think they've been as creative. And I think why he's trying to force KDB back into the team is because of a lot of what's been good about Man City has always come through KDB. to Haaland, in my opinion. I know Foden's had a very good season, and I think arguably he's been better than KDB this season based on injuries and whatever else. But I think, you know, he's for me, Haaland's the type of player you just got to create for, keep creating for, you know, and that's the issue for me. I don't think he is created for enough, in my opinion, and from what I've seen in the last sort of handful of games, he's not been as effective, you know, getting his body in front of balls, holding balls up, getting in behind, and etc. But in terms of Haaland, that he's best, it's Haaland in the box, and that also means that, you know, that Man City have to be dominating games and find themselves further up the pitch. They struggled yesterday because they lost the battle in the midfield to Liverpool, who in my opinion, I've said for a long time now, are going to win the league this season. By the way, the difference with Liverpool for me is that they're winning games. They're winning games in the last minutes, and you know, they're finding a way. And I think they will continue to do that, even with the injuries that they had. I just think with Man City to the Man City that we saw last season to the one that we saw this season, the difference more being also is that the form, Man City's form hasn't been the same.